My name is Katie. I run AORhelp.com. I help people with their freedom bundles, AORs, which is the Affidavit of Repudiation. I help you become an American state national. I also offer a service where I help you get your trademark. So if you need help with any of that, please come see me or go to my website, AORhelp.com. And I'm also Butterfly Mama on Telegram. So if you've seen Butterfly Mama in David's chat room on Telegram, that's me. Okay, I have a special treat for you. I wrote a song 20 years ago on September 11th, 2001. And I want to perform it for you because, are we good?
Yeah,
okay.
We're good. I want you to.
I'm nervous, so I walk back and forth. I have to stay here. Okay. So I wrote this song. I knew when I was 3 years old that there were some cops that did not care about me. When they came to my house for a domestic violence dispute between my mom and my dad, and I was a scared little girl, and I was trying to hand a toy to one of the officers, and he looked at me very agitated and annoyed, and it left me with a bitterness in my heart that cops just don't care about people. And that thought was confirmed when Waco happened when I was 12 years old. I saw what happened to the Branch Davidians. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that what happened to them was wrong, and there was nobody there to help them. And I also started writing when I was 12 years old. I started writing poetry, and I come from the hood, so I used to rap. And I started rapping when I was 12. And I had a desire to change the world through music. And so I started writing music and performing music, and I wanted to dedicate my life to God, and so I'd write gospel rap music. September 11th happened. I was, I think 19, 20, and I wrote a song called Lord Have Mercy on My Soul within 1 hour. The lyrics came to me, the hook, the chorus, the break, like everything came to me so easily. I didn't have to think about what to write, what was going to rhyme with what. It's like God gave me that song. Well, I'm about to perform it for you, and this is my second time performing it in front of a large audience. I've only performed it in front of like 2 or 3 people at a time in my past. So I am ready whenever you are. And if you don't like rap music, I understand. It's been 20 years. I'm not a rapper anymore, but I still know the song. And I will try to slow it down and articulate my words clearly so you can understand what I'm saying. So let's go. Oh, wait, one more thing. I went to music school. I don't remember. I think it was 2 or 3 years after I wrote the song, and I learned how to do audio engineering and producing, and I was able to take that song I wrote with a track and record it myself, and I had my friend come, and he sang the hook. And I got to add Bush's speech to the song, and I thought it was so fitting because I wrote that song when September 11th happened. I never liked George Bush. I always thought he was a part of it, and I always knew he was a traitor. But his speech and the words he said went really good with the song. So you'll hear him talk in the introduction, but that's not like I don't like him. So just want to give you that warning. What do you want me to do? Calm down? I'm nervous. This is my first time. Well, I did it in Johnson County. I got up and spoke for the people, and I was really nervous. So this is my second time doing this. I'll be calm.
Yeah! Come on now. Y'all give it up.
I got it.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
Come on.
The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads.
All my life searching for that perfect destiny, but I'm starting to believe that it wasn't meant for me. Can't you see that we're cursed? Ain't no future on this earth. Hate, pain, evil, and greed. Children starving cause they stuck in poverty. And we funded World War III. It's a damn shame what this world's come to be. So Tomorrow holds no promise to you or me. Only thing that's promised to our seeds is a lifelong hell of pain and misery. But I keep my head to the sky and my eyes on the prize. Even though I wanna die, I fall to my knees with tears in my eyes, cause I can't understand the evil man's plan. Tell me, Lord, why he keep taking land and money out my hands with high tax demands. You gotta show me a sign. I scream your name through my rhymes to let the world know that we're in the end of time.
Hey, put your hands together, y'all. Come on. Hey, hey, here we go.
Cause I can't take it no more. I wanna know what you put me here for. Lord, have mercy on my soul.
In this game, got me going insane. Screaming mercy in the Lord's name. Can you feel my pain? 'Cause I can't take it no more. I wanna know what you put me here for. Have mercy on my soul.
My life searching for that perfect destiny. All my life searching for that perfect destiny. Yeah. All my life searching for that perfect destiny.
Come on.
All my life searching for that perfect destiny.
I'm so stuck in this game.
Yes. Everybody clap your hands like this. Come on. Hey. Yeah. There we go. There we go. There we go.
Lord, have mercy on my soul. Even though I know I almost sold you out for diamonds and gold, but I chose another road cause I know where that one goes. Look at the doves for money they control. Tell people how to live and where to go. I'm seeing your prophecies unfold, and the truth being told as you sold the world with your fury, spreading like a plague overseas, killing through the air people breathe. We caught up in one big mystery, when in fact we dying from a false reality. Open up your eyes to see. If you can't, then you're blind. But you better think about it quick, cause you're running out of time.
Hey, come on. Yeah. Clap your hands, y'all. Come on.
Take it no more. I wanna know what you put me here for. Lord, have mercy on my soul.
Screaming mercy in the Lord's name. Can you feel my pain? 'Cause I can't take it no more. I wanna know what you put me here for. Have mercy.
It's kinda crazy in the last days. Babies born with AIDS. Just seldom hear about people dying from old age. All my homies that are locked in a cage. Been away for years. I can't even cry. No more tears. This what life has in store for me. How can I ever find ecstasy? Living hell through life's misery. So much pain got me going insane. Searching for that perfect destiny. Destiny.
Oh, it's so hard living this life. A constant struggle each and every day. So wonder why I'd rather die
Than to continue living this way. Hey.
I'm so
Hey.
stuck in this game.
Put 'em up down.
Screaming mercy in the
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come on, y'all. Give it up for Katie.
Thank you.
Come on, y'all. Give it up.
I'm so stuck in this game, got me going insane. Screaming mercy in the Lord's name. Can you feel my pain? 'Cause I can't take it no more. I wanna know what you put me here for. Have mercy on my soul.
I ask for your prayers for the children whose worlds have been shattered. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us.
Okay, well, I will not be singing, but you did an excellent job, Katie. So I'm Marcella Crandall. I think I've known David probably the longest in the room, maybe next to Rob. And before I get started talking about 7K medals, I just think you guys should know a little bit just about this man has personally saved my life on 2 separate occasions. I mean, guns blazing had to save me. And it was me, I'm not at liberty to share too much about my story because God hasn't given me the full deliverance yet with my children. But I just need you to know that's how I met David Straight. My life collided with severe corruption, and no one would help me. I had gone to the FBI, the Attorney General, the President, everyone. And somehow God brought me David Straight. And if it wasn't for this man, I would not be standing here. That is 100% certainty. So thank you, David. So one of the things that we have in the back for you is actually 7K medals. I know that a lot of people in this room are kind of brand new, it seems. So I'll kind of talk slow. I tend to talk really fast. But the reason that we are promoting 7K so heavily is for a couple of reasons. One, it's a membership, where once you pay an annual membership fee, you have access to all kinds of member benefits. So one of the benefits that we love is that you're able to buy gold and silver bullion at dealer direct pricing with no minimums and no maximums. That way the average everyday person can literally buy 1 ounce of silver at a time and still get it for a competitive price if they're buying it in bulk. So literally whatever 7K metals as a dealer can purchase the bullion for, they pass it off to their members at that same price. So no one in the company makes commissions on any of that. So you're always getting one of the most competitive prices out there, and you also know that it comes from a trusted source, which is kind of a big deal right now when companies like JM Bullion were just all over the news 4 months ago for having sold silver that they had gotten from China that wasn't pure silver. So the other thing, though, the game-changing benefit, and the reason why we always have more people that want to enroll than we do team to call people back, is a digital technology called the Sound Money Wallet. And you could read all about the 7K benefits on a website called 7K Today for those that are more readers. And then we also a website, davidstraightsilver.com, that has an 18-minute overview video, and then also an interview between David Straight and the 7K Metals CEO. But the reason the Sound Money Wallet technology is it's proprietary to 7K Metals, and it's a game changer because you can take 5 fiat dollars and you can fractionally back it by gold and silver. This kind of me. So you can fractionally back it by gold and silver, and then you can easily convert it back to cash should you need to transact with it within your Sound Money Wallet. So currently, there's a little bit of confusion, and because people are watching online, I want to make sure that we clear it up for all of the members that we already have within 7K, because we have a ton of members. So there's currently a card, I have it in my hand here, it's called the Pay Quicker card, that you can order from your account with your Sound Money Wallet, where you can access your cash balance. But just know, with the craziness of what's happening with the banks, even if it's held in your cash balance in your Sound Money Wallet with 7K, it's still subject to the fiat banking system. Okay, so yes, the Sound Money Wallet is the game-changing member benefit, but they are actually enhancing the Sound Money Wallet with a debit card that's actually backed by your gold and silver bullion. So this way, you'll have the everyday flexibility of doing life like we're all forced to, buying gas, paying bills. But when you're using that card, you're actually going to be deducting from your gold and silver, so you can be 100% outside of the banking system if you choose to be. So for most of us that are members currently, we've got our 7K Metals account set up, we've linked our bank to our Sound Money Wallet, we transferred our fiat into our Sound Money Wallet, and then converted it to silver. So David says there's secrets out about silver, it's the better investment than gold, and obviously once it's converted, it's protected from anything that's happening with the banking system. So, but there's other member benefits too that we all love. One of them is actually the healthcare. And I don't tend to talk about the healthcare as much, but I've been self-employed almost my entire life, and I'm also very holistic, as a lot of us truthers are. We're kind of aware of the corruption of Big Pharma. However, there's still kind of a place for having some kind of backup healthcare for broken bones and things like that. Well, 7K Metals was founded by 5 patriots out of Idaho Falls, Idaho, and it took them a couple of years to work on this deal, but they sought out a deal with the sovereign nations of Indians. And in doing so, they were able to come up with special terms that only they could have, where they have doctors that are holistic doctors that actually can be covered, like chiropractic and naturopath, all kinds of different stuff. But the best thing is the price. So for solid PPO, full coverage, a family that was paying when we priced, and this happens all the time when I kind of guide someone to the insurance, there was a family that had like a co-share plan through their employer for Kaiser, HMO. They were being charged $1,600 a month out of their check just for HMO healthcare. We priced it against 7K Metals. That same family of 4 has PPO healthcare, better coverage for $364 a month. So with that kind of savings, it may make sense for you to have some backup healthcare, and you just have access to that just by being a member of 7K Metals. Now the other thing, because this model, it's not multi-level marketing, but it is similar. I have no background in that whatsoever, and I realize there's some people that really are turned off by that whole marketing structure. But just keep in mind that we just wanted the membership to be brought to our audience because it aligns with what David teaches. Again, my background with David is more in human trafficking. But every new member that we enroll, we have to enroll underneath another member. And that's actually very advantageous for our members, because as long as you are receiving, doing an auto saver, which there's 4 different options for the monthly investment on the collectible side. So totally different than when you're buying bullion, which is about buying for the weight of the precious metal. So if you sign up for one of the 4 auto savers with the collectible numismatic coins, and the one that we like is the Silver State Animal Collection, because it appreciates about 40% a month. So as long as you're receiving one of these coins, you actually get points for every new member that we enroll underneath you. So some people are taking this and running with it and making it their own income source or a little side business, but nobody's expecting you to do that. Just know that's the take, that this coin, the points will bank, and then this coin typically pays for itself for most of our members, just because we grow so fast. Both David Straight and Bobby Lawrence are on our team, and we constantly have people wanting to join from Telegram. So I know I can be hard to reach. We have on the davidstraightsilver.com website, I'm still actively trying to build up a team that can funnel those calls. So for the people that are watching online, you cannot enroll yourself through davidstraightsilver.com. You have to have someone enroll you, and they have this enrollment link process. So if you've already done your due diligence and you know that you want to be enrolled, the best thing to do is just to shoot me a text, because sometimes it's difficult for me to call you back and to go through the overview. But if you know that you want an enrollment link, I can do that for you. And so my cell phone texting number is area code 916-839-9473. And again, that's mainly for the people that are just trying to get in and want that enrollment link and have been waiting for a while to get a call back on the davidstraightsilver.com. If you're in the room today, take advantage of that. There's white cards in the back where I'm going to have you fill out the top section for our team. That'll get you invited to our weekly team Zoom calls. And because there is so much with 7K metals and so many of the member benefits that we don't always tell you about kind of at the event because it's overwhelming, we typically do a Tuesday evening Zoom call. In the first half hour, we do onboarding for our newcomers, kind of how to get your account set up, how to get your Sound Money wallet dialed in. And then the second half hour, we go through all of the other member benefits that we may not have told you about. So yes, if you're in the room and you want to get enrolled with 7K metals, just fill out this top part of the card, and then I'm going to have you sit in one of the chairs in the back, and you have to finalize it on your phone where you put your credit card info in, and then we'll get you on David's team. Is there anything else to talk about? Okay, I think that's it for now, but I'll be in the back if you guys have more questions. Thank you. Oh, and Michelle wanted me to announce that we are going to be having a raffle at the end. So on Sunday, if you can take off your ID tags, your name tag, and leave it, and there's going to be a place in the back about noon tomorrow. That's what we're going to be using to do the raffle. So all of the vendors in the back are going to be raffling off different prizes for that. Oh, and the other thing I should mention is I am the one that does the PMAs for business owners. So if you want to talk to me about that, you can go to the table in the back. And then we also have the website straightpma.com that will put you in touch with me if you want more information. Okay, thanks.
I'm so proud of these girls. It took a very long time to be able to get Marcella to where she could come up and speak, and it was very, very difficult. And I've watched these two grow so much in such a short period of time, really. I'm so proud of them. They're just like my daughters. I love them to death. And it brings humility and joy to my heart to watch them be able to stand in front of you guys and say something. It's a big deal for them. And to try and perform. Never been much into rap music, but the words to that song, I absolutely love. And Katie wrote it, so that's pretty cool. All right, where were we? All right, let me finish that up before I go into this. All right. I want you to think of a land patented piece of property as a big, huge chunk of concrete. And it's square. It's gigantic. And it can't be moved. It's hard to pick up a piece of land from Michigan and move it to Texas, even though your soil's better most of the time. And pretend it's got a big hook on it, a giant hook on it. And this is your land patent, this big movable chunk. And not even the biggest excavator on the face of the planet could pick this thing up. It's just huge. It will never move from where it's at. And it's important to understand that. And what happens is the man that was granted this piece of property by government had to do some things to get it. He had to make improvements. He had to be willing to occupy it. He had to pay a fee. And it was so important to the expansion of this nation that it was signed by a president of the United States, except for Texas, which was signed by a governor or one of his assignees. So it was that important. Signed to his heirs, successors, and assignees forever. It can never be taken away. And someday he got old and he knew his time was coming to an end, and he may have granted that piece of property to his son. And he became the grantor, and his son became the grantee. And it was passed through a grant deed. And this patent had a number on it. And it was described in metes and bounds. That's the key to a land patent right there. It's described in metes and bounds. Now his son may have passed it down to his son, and he became the grantor, and they became the grantee. And it's like welding a great big piece of chain to it. It's called a chain of title. And it's superior title because it's passed through a grant deed and tied to an original land patent. So it's superior. It can't be broken. And at some point in time, the county came along and they tied a cute little bow with a cute little string on it. And somebody got an abstract deed. Now, an abstract is a fallacy. That's what it is. It's SMU. It's shit made up. It's done under a war rant deed. a declaration of war that you accept. And they declared war on that landowner who, with his hard-earned money that he worked hard for, purchased that property. And the whole team of various people in various positions in county government, appraisers, real estate agents, escrow agents, and bankers stole. They got together as a little mafia group committing RICO and stole that property on behalf of the state. How did they do that? Well, first of all, a young couple, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'll make you two Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just got married 20 years old, right? And Mr. and Mrs. Smith wanted to buy their very first home together. And they don't quite have the money saved up, maybe a good down payment. And then they go to a mortgage banker and they fill out their applications for their mortgage. It gets turned into the bank and they sign their name. And as the signatory officers of their trust that was developed on the day they were born, the bank, without any full and honest disclosure of the terms and conditions of the contract, took that money out of the trust, put it in the bank, and paid that home off in full. But they signed a debt application with the promise to pay 30 years of payments at $1,000 a month. Okay? And then, because it's under a warranty deed, the county charges you property taxes on top of that. And the house was paid off out of their trust from the beginning. But they operated as a debtor rather than a creditor, so they didn't know how, because they weren't taught. And when they went in to sign all their mortgage documents at the escrow agent, another one of the mafia, they sign all their mortgage papers, and the escrow officer gets all done, and she stacks it all up neatly, and she moves it aside. And she is trained to say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, how would you like to hold title? They just bought their first house. They've never done this before. Nothing's really explained to them. And then the escrow agent, or one of them, says, well, I don't know, what are our options? And the escrow agent looks at Mr. and Mrs. Smith and says, well, most married couples hold title in joint tenants in common with the warranty deed. And they have been indoctrinated since they bought their first toaster to get a warranty. And they got a warranty on their toaster and their microwave and their fridge that they've been using in their apartment. They got a warranty on their phone. They got a warranty on this, their warranty on their car, their warranty on everything. So warranties are good because they don't know what it means in English. And they look at each other and go, oh, well, yeah, joint. Okay, I guess if that's what most husband and wives do, we'll do that. And the escrow officer says, thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Be on your way, have a nice day, and I'll get all your paperwork prepared and your warranty deed filed with the county, and then you'll get a copy in the mail. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And they drive off. Happy new homeowners. And down the road, they sell, and somebody else goes through the same thing, and they sell, and somebody goes through the same thing. And then here you come along, and you go through exactly that same thing. But the chain of title was really broken right here. Everything else is an abstract. And there's even a guy in this mafia group called an abstractor. And they have companies that do that, who for a fee of about $1,500 do title searches for banks. And they'll only do a title search that goes from here back to here. And they'll do that for like $1,500. And the bank pays them to do it for them. So everything there from this point to this point is SMU. It's shit made up. It's false, it's fake, it's fraudulent, and it's not real. Men and women hold this here. Persons hold this here. Read the paperwork carefully. It will say something like, David Straight, you have this benefit, this benefit, this benefit under your warranty. You have this and this obligation. You have. It doesn't say, and it says you need to make this amount of payment per month. It never says David Straight needs to make this payment per month. They cannot charge the human, the man. They cannot charge him. They can only charge you. They can only bill you. They can only sue you when you are I am. I am I. It's a God principle. It's in the Bible. A man as I am. I am David Lester Straight. I had a judge look at me one time and said, David Straight, you. And I turned around. And he says, what are you doing? I waited till he said something. I stayed turned around until he said something. He goes, what are you doing? I'm looking for my imaginary friend, you. Are you, Your Honor? Are you? Because I sure as hell ain't. But I am David Lester Straight. He goes, case dismissed. That's simple. You can't let them deal with a you. Hey, you! Who am I talking to? You see what I mean? Understand that you and I am principle very, very well. And it will save all a lot of heartache in the future. Okay? So, they don't know how to deal with me. Anyway, what you need to do to claim your land patent is create you another grant deed. And then everything here, all the fallacy falls away. And your job is to weld a brand new link of chain to that chain of title, and that is, I am whoever you are. I, David Lester Straight, claim this land, and I accept the grant deeds and the original land patent as part of my inheritance and my inhabitants forever. And I am now the grantee. The grantee is like beneficiary. That's a good way to remember. Grantee is like a beneficiary. Grantor is like executor. See? And then put your property in trust. Keep the property itself in your name, the name of the man. And men came into this world naked, and they leave naked. They have use of everything that they possess for the benefit of their heirs, successors, and assignees forever, their children, their grandchildren, and so forth, forever. And then that becomes a trust. So you use those principles in your paperwork, in your affidavit, to hold it with your trust. So your trust is this great big holding company, but it's not a company, but it's a holding trust. And it's holding everything you own. You create a property list that covers every scenario that can possibly happen. I wrote a property list when I owned a trust company back in 1991, and I didn't have to modify it until 2022 because it was very complete. I added cryptocurrency to it, which I don't particularly like or care for, except for the ones that are backed by heavy metals, commodities. Even if it was backed by toilet paper, it'd be okay, because that's a valuable commodity. We don't have Sears robot catalogs anymore. The older people laughed, and you young people have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay. I built my well house to look like an outhouse. Anyway, this is what you have to do, and record it all. And just disavow all that abstract stuff as fraud. It just falls away as if it never was.
Can two people be on a land or a land pact?
As in like a husband and wife, or two brothers? As a husband and wife, the husband's usually on it. The wife is your property too. You and him are one.
Okay, so if one of us isn't a nationalist per se, like I'm the nationalist and he decides not to be one.
What the hell? Shall I slap you, silly? Come here.
Just do it.
That question comes
That's part of the annulment process.
The wife is the nationalist. She's getting all her paperwork together, and now she's trying to figure out if, because he doesn't want to. So not us two, some friends, but now.
Why doesn't he want to? Tell him he was born a state national. And when he was registered, then he became a U.S. citizen. We were all born state nationals. We're taking our birthright back. Understand how important that is, to take your birthright back. U.S. citizen was created by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. How long did this country exist before it was created? And was the 14th Amendment even ratified? No. But they made this shit up and hold you accountable to it. So now you're in trouble. Now they attack under the War Powers and Emergency Powers Act. And they attack you and attack you and attack you and have no defense. Pull up Johnson County records and see if I was ever arrested. That's the power of being a state national. You can't stop a guy with a gun that's an idiot. Go with the flow. But then when they figure it out, you didn't exist anymore. And you're wiped off the planet because you're not in their juris. See how important that is? Took me 60 years to get arrested.
So can two brothers be on it?
Yes. Yes, I can. You should be, because it's to their heirs. A father can leave the property to his 2 sons. The problem is arguments and family squabbles and fights, and it's like holding a business partnership together. It's very difficult. All right. Have we beat land patents to death yet? You want to erase my board for me again? You did a good job the first time. You just found the land patent just now? I'm so proud of you. Isn't that cool? Just now. She looks it up on the computer, and there it is. All right.
Hey, we were still a part of Ohio then, too, by the way. We weren't Michigan yet, apparently.
Hey, no, that's correct. Yeah. You should be. You're not. You don't have to be, but you can't defend it. A slave cannot own property. Slave can't own real estate. Slave works on the plantation owned by somebody else. You keep the fencing up. You keep the garden up. You keep your house intact. You don't do mechanic work in your yard because that's against our rules. You see what I mean? Slaves can't own property. And that's where ordinances come in. Ordinances come in because of your lack of status and standing. There's probably more land patent property in Texas than anywhere else. And it's both a benefit and a curse sometimes. But you know what? I'd rather have something that's both the benefit and a curse where I know that people have freedom and liberty than something that may be absolutely perfect due to the fact of heavy enforcement of ordinances and have no freedom and liberty. That means you go in Texas and there's $1 million home sitting next to a trailer with cars in the yard. See? Sometimes that can be a curse. But I'd rather fight for the freedom and liberty of that than have the other. Okay? To me, that's important. Man, I can't hear a darn word you're saying. No. Yes. There's my answer. She asked me if we could have a land patent on a second home. Yes, you can. I own multiple. I have a commercial building, Bonnie and I, with a land patent on it. And I'll tell you what, when we put that property in land patent, all the oil companies started calling us wanting to buy the mineral rights again. They were all sold out from under the property years ago before Bonnie bought it. And then when she put in a land patent, they all called to buy the mineral rights again because they knew she owned it. What's that tell you? Whoever owned the mineral rights and did not use them, lost them when you reclaim the land patent. Okay? In the CFR 311-.005, under general definitions, a person includes a corporation, organization, government, or governmental subdivision or agency, a business trust, estate, trust, partnership, association, or legal entity. Property means real and personal property. A rule means regulation. Signed includes any symbol executed or adopted by a person with present intention to authenticate a writing. Put your X here, that's your signature. Some people just go, okay? I would never do that. I had to relearn how to sign my name because I want all my name clearly legible and distinct, and I want it clearly readable. I didn't learn until later in life how important that is. So many of you have been screwing up with your signatures. Okay? Because if you put a mark on a ticket, it's a signature. Unless it is clearly legible as otherwise. I want you to understand what I'm saying here. This is where I keep telling you, your new name is under, and you better make it legible. Under duress. Under's your first name, duress is your last name. But it's got to be clear and legible. If you write it quickly and it's not legible, well, it's the same thing as your signature, Joe Smith. But if it's clearly legible, it shows your intent. And your intent is that you were forced or coerced to sign it under duress. And if you can put all rights reserved or UCC 1308 or, I mean, there's a million things you can do to add to that help enforce your intent. Intent is extremely important in the law. There was a gal had 4 felonies. She went to trial, she was found guilty. She met me 3 days after her trial. Her sentencing wasn't for another month or so. First thing we did is said we need more time to prepare for sentencing and got an extension because I knew it was going to take time to teach, right? When we finally got to sentencing, walked into the courtroom and said, Your Honor, was intent clearly proven that she had an intent to commit a crime? And he goes, he was already knowing that the prosecutor didn't prove an intent on 2 of the counts. So he dismissed 2 of the counts. Right then and there. That's half of her sentencing gone. And her sentence was 5 years per count. Just saved her 10 years of her life with 1 sentence. By the time we were done, she never served 1 day in jail, in prison. Prison is different than jail. I was in jail overnight. I was arrested for 17 hours and in jail for 13 and a half. Technically, they release me before they process you out. Yeah. The United States includes a department, bureau, or other agency of the United States. That's weak. Always read definitions. Always read definitions. Now, here's another thing I'm going to tell you right now. Are you defining your words? I got a friend in Texas that wins every time he goes in the courtroom. He's brilliant. And the reason he wins is because he redefines every word. And he puts the definitions in his paperwork and accepts it as the definitions we're going to go by. And now the judge has to go by his definitions of the words. It's like firearm or arm. Firearms are regulated. Arms cannot be regulated. Do you own firearms or do you own arms? The word you use determines your juris. It's called jurisdiction. Right law, words. Which is the right law, land, air, or water? The ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, uses admiralty law. And they define firearm. In fact, they just redefined that just recently. Anything with something that's explosive in it is a firearm now. And every bullet's an explosive. So this is how they think they're going to regulate your right away. So if you screw up with your word and you don't define it, if you should be attacked by them for something, and you don't define it in your paperwork that goes in the court 7 to 10 days before you get there, well, then it's on you. Because I own lots of arms. I don't own any firearms. And my gun permit was issued December 15, 1791. So they've had enough time to read it. Okay? It's well established. Okay? I want to read you something out of Texas Code. And it says this in most state code. But it says, all real and personal property in this state, the property of corporations now existing or may be hereinafter created, and the property of all banks or banking companies now existing or may be hereinafter created, and of all bankers except such as hereinafter expressly exempted, is subject to taxation. All property is subject to taxation. And such property or the value thereof shall be entered in a list of taxable property for that purpose in a manner prescribed by this act. Real property for the purpose of taxation shall be construed to include land itself, whether laid out in town, lots, or otherwise, and all buildings, structures, and improvements or other fixtures of whatsoever kind thereon, and all the rights and privileges belonging or in otherwise appertaining hereto, including all mines, minerals, quarries, and fossils in and under the same. When you read something like that, you better pick out their words and you better define them in your document. If you don't put a definition of those words that apply to you, that you accept well enough to put on the record, then they go by this. And then you wonder why you will go in and your house was being foreclosed on and you prove the bank and all these guys in the mafia created fraud, and he still takes your house from you. And you proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's because wordcraft. So, species of currency. The court finds you guilty and fines you $2,500. Your Honor, I'm happy to pay that. if you can please tell me what species of currency I have to pay that in. Could it be bonds, silver, toilet paper, coffee beans? There's a case out there called the coffee bean case. And a man did just that. And a judge cannot tell you what species to pay of currency to pay of anything in. So he got the judge to put that on the record, got his court transcript, went home, counted out that number of coffee beans, put it in a sack, came back to the court clerk, showed her the highlighted page that the judge said in the court transcript with the case number highlighted at the top, and handed her a bag of coffee beans. And she stamped it paid in full. He said, "Thank you very much. Make sure that's reflected in the record." And he walks out, and she went and made some coffee. Yeah. They cannot tell you what species to pay in. There's a big difference between words. The checkbook money they tendered to the borrower has an equal value of legal tender because his promissory note will be sold for legal tender cash. The bank uses the newly created checkbook money to fund the bank loan check they give to the alleged borrower to be repaid to them at interest over time. A promissory note is a negotiable instrument constructed in a strict accordance with the Uniform Commercial Code. Debt is discharged upon tender of a promissory note, whether accepted or rejected by the payee. A payment tendered and refused is paid in full, meaning discharged, and nobody has any obligation to pay in Federal Reserve promissory notes. Isn't that incredible? Right now, today, they added a couple of documents to Bonnie's case. And they keep doing this day in and day out, moving things around and making it easier for them to win against her. And they're setting the stage, and they're doing it every day she's in there. They're setting the stage, and they move things around. They move the dates of their warrants around. They've done everything. So we're keeping track of that. Okay? They did change the record. There's 8 million ways we should have been able to get it thrown out, but they are doing all the wrong things. Do you understand? They constantly break the law. They're not going to do the, and I don't expect them to. That's the beauty of how I win. I win every time. I expect them to do absolutely the wrong thing. And then I nail their butts to the wall for it. Most people don't know how to do that. Okay? They just signed another attorney. The practice of law cannot be licensed by a state or a state. Show me the corporate charter issued by the Secretary of State of the United States for your law firm, Mr. Attorney. Well, we don't have one. I know. Show me your license issued by the state of Texas. They don't have one. One day the judge says, "You're not a licensed bar attorney, are you?" I'd been arguing for like a half an hour. When I walked in, he thought I was an attorney. And he didn't ask, so I let it go. And I'd been arguing for about a half an hour, and he goes, "You're not a licensed bar attorney, are you?" And I said, "I would never be a member of that criminal organization. I like to keep my hands in my own pockets and not in other people's." And it pissed him off. And so he said, you need to leave the courtroom. I said, the practice of law cannot be licensed by a state or any state. The practice of law is an occupation of common right. The Administrative Procedures Act, Section 6, says the practice of law is open to anyone, not just a bar member. See, they bet you don't know that. That's all they're doing is playing a game, a chess game, and believing you don't know how to play chess. And most of them don't. Most people don't. They're so used to railroading you. I learned this in 1989 by my mentor, who was a 23-year federal prosecutor, retired. And he retired because he couldn't stand the corruption anymore. And he decided he would help people for free. And I was a young dad with 6 kids, and CPS had just taken my kids from the hospital while I was at work. I owned my own home, and I had 5 rental houses, and I owned my own business. And I'd served this country, and I'd made money. I made good money. I had over 100 people working for me when I was 26 years old, including 6 attorneys working for me in my office with my business card, not theirs, not a law firm. They worked for me, and they were licensed bar members. And here's a 26-year-old kid telling them what we needed to do. See? But I fought for them and I got them back because I had a mentor who came down and spent the weekend with me. They took him on a Friday night. And he spent the weekend with me and told me how to go into court where I didn't even have a court case yet. I haven't been served one single document. And I went in and I made my own court. And I won, and I got my kids back that afternoon. 3 of the longest days in my life, they had my kids. And believe me, I was ready to kill somebody. I knew they were my responsibility. They're your most precious, important gift in life. And too many children are taken in this country, 2,148 a day on average, 800,000 children a year taken from their parents. In this country, the freest country in the world. Bullshit. The best slaves are the ones who believe they are free. I sure got off that subject. What happened? Whew. Anyway, I don't know where I was. You know, we've already covered quite a bit, but what I need to cover, if I can find it really quick, hey, you think the United States is not on a depopulation program? Do you guys know who Deagle.com is? Deagle. D-E-A-G-E-L. Do you know who they really are? Who owns them? Yeah. Our gross domestic product, 19 trillion, with 34 inhabitants per square mile, with a surface area of 9.6 million square miles in the United States. We had a population in 2017 of 327 million people. 327 million in 2017. The world figure in 2017 was 7.4 billion in 133 million square miles, 55 inhabitants per square mile, and a $79 trillion a year gross national product for the world. And we had 19 trillion of that. Our per capita income was $59,274 on average, and the world's per capita was $10,710. We're 6 times more almost. Our military budget was $637 billion, and the world's military budget was $1.7 trillion total. Here's where it gets really scary. Their forecast for 2025, 2 years away, is that we only have a population in the United States of 100 million. We dropped from 327 million to 100 million. The world drops from 7.4 billion to 6.9 billion. It only drops a $500 million, where we drop the most of any nation on earth, because we're the most developed and we're the biggest rebels. Okay? Our density will drop from the 34 inhabitants per square mile to 10. From 34 to 10. Our gross domestic product will drop from 19 trillion to 2.4 trillion. Our per capita income will drop from $59,274 a year to $24,561 a year on average. Now I'm going to tell you that's not going to happen. None of this crap's going to happen. This was their predictions to kill you off, to move you into small coastal cities. All their predictions are going to be destroyed by God. It would allow our military budget to drop to only $32 billion from $637 billion. Okay. Who is Deagle Corporation, Deagle.com? Who are they? Who funds them? It isn't just Soros and BlackRock. It's the Central Intelligence Agency. If we the people don't wake up and vote with our feet and stop this crap, they're going to come closer to their goal than they should. It's up to us, and we don't have a lot of time left. Believe me, I have been getting reports the last 2 years on a monthly basis that scare the hell out of me. They really do. And they should scare you too. And if we don't take a stand and say enough is enough, and we don't vote with our feet and get off the citizenship and say enough is enough and stand up to the corporations and come out of her, O ye Babylon, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. A citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as a co-trustee and a co-beneficiary of the public charitable trust, the constructive, under the Cestui Trust of the U.S. under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the United States and the U.S. Inc., and that's found in Congressional Record, June 13th, 1967, between the pages of 15,641 and 15,646. I want you to remember that. This is one of the most important things I think I found when I was reading. This one little piece of the puzzle put a lot of pieces together in my head for me that I've been trying to share and teach. That's why I teach this stuff. I had to pull stuff here and pull stuff here and pull stuff here, and I read more than 200,000 books. Can you imagine reading 200,000 books? I did that over a period of about 10 years, 200,000 books. I was digesting 1,600 pages every night. I was blessed with a gift where I could read 1,460 words a minute and remember it. That all went away when I had that series of strokes and heart attacks in 2013. And 14, 15, and 16 were very hard for me. From 17 till now, I'm starting to get all that back. But that period of time at the end of 2013 almost ended me teaching you guys. I almost quit. I'm sure glad I did, because I sure love you. I have no idea where my marriage stuff went in here. Kind of got hid. Well, this is wonderful stuff. How do we move from public to private? Remember, that's what it's about. There's 3 jurisdictions, land, air, and water. We all know that by now. We know what those are and we know what those mean, right? Everybody? Okay, how do we move from what is private to what is public, or from public to private? Huh? We have to throw that off. We have to throw off that corporation. God tells you to come out of her, O ye Babylon, because Babylon was the first incorporated city in the world. That's what it means to come out of Babylon. Throw off that corporate construct. Katie's got shirts back there that say that on the back. I think I'm wearing one underneath this shirt. So there are things we have to do. We have to move from that corporate LLC, corporation, S-corp, partnership deal that's registered with the state. Every time you register or license something, it's in the public. And it removes your rights. And they say it gives you privileges. I have never seen that. I don't think it's a privilege. I just don't. But it removes your rights and replaces it with a privilege to drive. You have a right to travel, to freely assemble. Remember, it violates the First Amendment to the Constitution. It's a constitutional violation, therefore it is null and void on its face. You guys, how many people drove here? Okay, drove or traveled? I was checking to see who had come up with it. So just about everybody. Do you understand we couldn't freely assemble? If they took away our right to travel? You know how important that is? You could even assemble at church if they took away your right to travel. This is why we have to defend it so briskly, so quickly, by so many people. We've got to stand up and say, enough is enough. I'm not going to register that vehicle. I paid for it with my own money. Get your MCO, get your superior title. Hold your property and land patent. Go buy some that already is. Right back there. Those guys are performing an incredible service, both of them. Huge service to us. Those are things that a decade ago was incredibly hard for people in this movement. I've been doing this for more than 3 decades now. Everybody was asking me for silver and gold. Where do you buy yours? Well, I started buying from 7K because I liked that it was a patriotic company with the right mental attitude, and they were conservative, and they were coming up with some very unique things, and they did it in a way that's perfect, really. And so I started supporting them. We've got to understand that we got to support each other. We got to start going back to buying things that other state nationals make. I used to be a big promoter of body armor. Remember when I did that? Some of you? I'd have 3 or 4 body armors sitting up on the table. Drinks, not the vests. Okay, I have some of those too. But drinks. Body armor drinks. Because the guy, one day I'm standing up, and in that particular stage, there was a built-in podium. And I had him sitting on the podium, and I was turning around and grabbing him and taking a drink. And I used to love body armor drinks because they were very good for you, and they were well made. And I'd read the history of the company and the guy that did it and why he did it and everything else, and I believed in him. And by gosh, that company exploded, became huge. It went from being hard to find body armor to it's everywhere. And then Coca-Cola jumped in and bought it for $2.7 billion December 1st of 2021. And I'm happy for the man because, well, it changed his family's life. He struggled. Even though it was a big company, he put everything back into the company. And his family struggled for a while. And one day he came to one of my classes, and he was sitting in the audience, and he walks up to me at lunchtime. He says, well, how do you like that stuff? And I started selling him on it. I didn't know he was the CEO, founded the company, right? But we got to support each other. And so find products that other state nationals have created, okay? And go support them. And stop shopping at Walmart, McDonald's, and buying Coca-Cola and Pepsi and fast food. Watch where you eat. Try and get better nutrition in you. Your health is more important to me than the movement. If nothing else, I want you to survive this whole thing and not be killed. And our water, oh my gosh. Be careful of what water. Can I pick on you guys? Thank you. See this shit that they sell everywhere? You know what they killed death-made inmates with? It's listed right here on the label. This doesn't freeze. You put it out here in Michigan when it's cold outside, and you go to dump it out, and it's gel. Plop, 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 plop. It is so dangerous that I know a truck driver who delivers this stuff, and he picks it up at the warehouse, and he has to have a scanner to scan the tag on the pallet, And if it hasn't been sitting there 2 weeks, he's not allowed to pick it up because it's still poison. And it will kill you. They put a dissipating poison in Dasani. And who owns it? Thank you. One of the companies trying his best to reduce your population of America. And where do they put this crap? Every airport there is. It's almost all you can find in airports, so I don't buy water in airports. This is pure poison. I've tested hundreds of brands of water, and if you can find good quality spring water bottled at the source, that's good. Fiji is one of the best waters there is.
Is that ingredient sodium lauryl sulfate?
No, it's potassium chloride. And you're drinking this. How's your health?
Not bad. It's not very good.
Yeah, this is killing you. I love you too much for this. I want to beat you with your own cane. I'd never harm you. I love you. But I look around and I see stuff like this, and it is absolutely pure poison. Well, I don't know. Let's see what that one is. Yeah, no, this is fine. We picked it on purpose. Huh? It was the only all-natural spring water brand with no added ingredients, pure water bottled at the source that Sam's Club carried. And it was not the cheapest water. Do you know this actually costs them more to make than that? They have to buy huge truckload barrels of additives to put in this. Do you understand that company is losing money because it's more important to kill you? They don't care about that. You're worth more dead than alive. And they've got ways of getting paid on that. You see what I mean? You're done with that? Pay very close attention to anything off the shelf that you're buying. Everything, read it. Stay away from soybean, corn, and corn. Stop buying it. Soybeans and corn. Yeah. 100% of soybeans in this country are poisoned now. 100% of soybeans. You can't even buy a good jar of mayonnaise without it containing soy. Okay, so you have to find that all organic, all made with egg mayonnaise. And that's hard to find. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. This doesn't make you smarter. And it's almost as poisonous as Desante. That's good stuff. Guys, I love you too much. I got to tell you this stuff. This isn't just a class about changing your status. This is a class about surviving the future. Okay, because in the last days, we're being attacked right now by the Bar Association and the bankers than we've ever been attacked in our history. And they're going after more and more people. And the volume is worse, and the charges are worse, and the amount of money they're making is more. They know their gig's about done, so they're trying to profit as much as they can right now. And then they're going to try and kill you off. And they already started that program. Our population in the United States is already reduced in the last 2 years. Hasn't grown, it's reduced. I walked into a flower shop about a week before Bonnie was arrested to buy her flowers, which I do on a very regular basis for no occasion whatsoever. I spoil her to death. And I went to buy some flowers. And she goes, it was like 10:45 in the morning. She'd been open since 8:30. I walk in, she goes, oh, you're the second customer today. I said, second? We're right off a major road, there's cars. Why am I the only second one to walk in today? And she goes, because most of our business comes over the phone. I don't know if I got time to make you up some flowers right now. I've got all these orders to fill. And she pulls out a stack of invoices about like that. I said, you're that busy? That's a lot of flowers. She goes, yeah, I ordered a truckload on Monday, I ordered a truckload on Tuesday, I ordered a truckload on Wednesday, I ordered a truckload on Thursday, and today's Friday, and I had a truckload delivered this morning. She goes, you wouldn't believe the volume of flowers. And when we're just a mom and pop family flower store with our 2 daughters working, and the mom and dad, 4 people. And she's got a stack this high. I said, is it a holiday or what is going on? What's going on this week? What is it? She said, no, it's all funerals. I said, is that normal for you? Was it that way 2 years ago? She just told me she had been in business over 15 years in that same location. I says, is that normal for you? She says, absolutely not. 2 years ago, we would order a whole bunch of flowers for Valentine's Day and a whole bunch of flowers for Easter and a whole bunch of flowers in June for all the people to get married and so on and so forth. Now we're ordering flowers every day. And it's all people dying. These are my people, my fellow Americans that are dying. Dumb or not, whether they took the shot, doesn't matter to me. We've gone to war, multiple wars, to keep our people alive. And now they're killing them. And they're hiding the numbers. You want to know the truth? Look at the statistics from the mortuaries and crematoriums. Their business is booming right now. I should have invested that 10 years ago. No, that's bad. Bad omen right there. I couldn't have done it. Bad omen. Rewind. Cut. Take 2. No, I'm serious. So we got to move from these LLCs and these corporations, we got to move them into private membership associations. All state statutes protect private membership associations. Your charitable events, you can move them into foundations. Your family affairs, you can put them into trusts. And you can use that trust to hold all of every little thing that you own. Your pants and your underwear is owned by the trust because God didn't create it. He created your pants and your underwear. I mean, how did I say that? I just screwed that. I'm getting tired. I screwed that whole thing up. God created everything, and he made you the trustee, so put in your trust. You didn't create anything. Our job is the trustee for the benefit of our beneficiaries. That's all it is. We come in the world naked and we leave naked. Hold all property in trust. That doesn't mean you have to put the property in the name of the trust, like the lawyers try to tell you you do. All you have to do is describe the property that's held in the trust and put an amendment showing that everything I own and possess, this, and you can be general. Everything I own and possess is held in trust, and I'm the trustee for the benefit of my heirs and beneficiaries forever. Right? Lawyers don't teach you that. See, so to tell you a quick story some of you have already heard, back in 1991, I had a big financial planning company. We did mortgages, we did securities, we did insurance products, and we had trusts for high net worth individuals who had liquid capital of at least $5 million. That's not including what they owned. That's just the liquid amount. And we did trusts for all those people. I did trusts for a lot of the Portland Trail Blazers years ago. Okay? And I had 6 attorneys that worked for me. And one day they're all sitting at a table in the break room. And I walked through the break room like lots of our salespeople did, and our secretaries and everybody else. I had over 100 salespeople working for me, plus secretaries and attorneys and all kinds of people, researchers, web guy trying to build a website, all kinds of different things. And I walked in, and I don't think they lifted their head or paid attention to who was walking in. They just thought it was one of the people that go in and out of the break room. And I walked in to get a cup of coffee, and I was standing at the coffee pot, pouring the coffee, literally with my back to them. And I overheard them tell me how they write trusts so that they could be broken later when the people are elderly and steal all their assets. And one of the biggest problems we run in today is the theft of elderly's assets by attorneys. It's one of the biggest problems we run in. The minute you go into a assisted living center or an elderly care home, you become a ward of the state and you own nothing. And they can go after all your assets. What's that? Well, let me tell you something. Attorneys are smart. If an attorney wrote the trust, he wrote something in there in a way to break it. A gal I just got off the phone with last night, I've known her for a long time. She went through similar problems as some of our people here, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to say that out loud. And she did it in a very bad way. When she was 16, 17 years old, she was a world-class ballerina. Traveled all over the world. Beautiful lady, in her 30s and 40s now, and had a trust. And when she was young, she got involved in some very bad things. And a judge, she's got a piece of property that's like a whole city block, and it's in a very valuable, historic neighborhood. And it's divided up into little condominiums, but she owns the whole block and has held it in trust. And she's been fighting one judge who wants to own the property. In fact, he took it from her and put it on the deed. Put his name on the deed. We won in the California Supreme Court. She won, and she got the property back, but it's still not over. She's still fighting, because now he says she owes a bunch of money for the money he put into it, which he didn't put any money into it, okay? But he collapsed the trust by calling her the alter ego of the trust because of a technicality of how the attorney had written the trust, and then dissolved the trust and took the property from her and owned it for himself. Hey, right up the street from where I live in Burleson, Texas, I know a judge and an attorney that own a supermarket because they did exactly that. They own other properties that they did exactly that. In fact, if we look deeply into every judge and every big attorney in town, I'll show you property they stole. They do it all the time, day in and day out. Because the very definition of an attorney is an actor to a turn. An actor is somebody who gets up on stage and lies convincingly enough to make you believe in the character and the plot. And to a turn is to steal from one and turn over to another. So by the very definition of their profession, they're liars and thieves. And that's why it's against mine and Bonnie's religion to have an attorney represent you. Because the minute they do, you're incompetent. The minute they do, you're incompetent. And you contracted your incompetency and paid them handsomely to steal from you. I run into more people in the United States that call me, probably a dozen phone calls a day that leave voicemail messages, who are calling me because they paid an attorney a whole bunch of money who did nothing for them. And a lot of people call me from jails who are there because their attorney didn't fight for them. And Bonnie was assigned an attorney in the courtroom, and the minute the judge assigned it, she fired him right there in the hearing. Okay? And then he sent a letter, because he got the court transcript, he sent a letter recusing himself. Nobody wants to represent Bonnie anyway, except the very most crookedest of all attorneys in town. And so the judge assigned him to her case. She's already written a letter firing him from the jail, and he has not recused himself. So I'm going to handle it on Tuesday. I'm telling you, they put him there to put her in prison. It takes 3 signatures to put a man or a woman in prison. Without those 3 signatures, you can't go. Whose are they? The judge, prosecuting attorney, and either you or whoever you signed away your power of attorney to. You either did it by taking a plea deal, or you signed your power of attorney and he did it for you in the back room. And he made your body the surety. All courts are banks. All judges, bankers. The business of a bank is to create a security. All crimes are commerce in the law, even murder.
27 CFR 7211.
That's right. You're pretty damn good. Say it out loud.
Been studying 10 years.
No, say what the code.
27 CFR 72.11.
That's right. Put everything in the trust. Hold all your business in a PMA. If you want to give money away, do it through a foundation. This is the giveaway. So to go back to my story, this 6 attorneys that were working for me in the break room eating their lunch, I overheard them tell me that. I reached over and grabbed a chair and I threw it across their table, scattering their lunches so hard the chair legs stuck in the wall. And the chair's hanging there. And then I walked over to the table and I put my hands on it like this, and I'm 26 years old, in pretty good shape. Not like when my chest slipped and got caught on my belt. And I leaned over and I said, get up and walk out the door. I'm going to call security and have you escorted out of the building. We'll mail you your things. I'm not even going to let them go to their office. Fired them all. And I did put a hold on any trust we were doing for anybody until I figured out how they were doing it and how to fix it. And so what I did is I studied all the big trusts in the world. The Gettys, the Kennedys, the Astors, all these people that had tons and tons of money. And their trusts have been existing for years. And how are they doing it? How are they written? And I got them all and I read them all. And boy, some of them were hard to get a copy of. They keep those very tight to the vest. It cost me more than $145,000 to obtain all those trusts. And I paid for it. I had investigators working all over the place, getting me copies. You guys got it much easier. You got a very good internet now. 1991, things were just getting going. It wasn't all on there. And I learned what those attorneys were doing and how they were writing it to break the trust, and I wrote it differently. And that's how I came up along with a guy named William Moffett. The Moffett family came from Connecticut, very, very wealthy, used to have lots and lots and lots of property. And William Moffett, the first, was known as the father of flight, not the Wright brothers. Moffett Field was named after him. Research Moffett Field, okay? Was one of our first major airports, okay? He was the father of flight. He flew before the Wright brothers. See, that's how they make shit up, history. They just destroy history. And history is written by the victor, okay? But the Moffett family probably had the best trust I ever read. And it was all based on Scripture. And it was all dedicated to God. And God was the true executor. And the Moffetts were the trustees for the benefit of their beneficiaries forever. And I found William Moffett V, and he had created a church called the World Benefit Church. And it wasn't the normal church where you have a building and everybody meets. It was a church for the purpose of traveling the world to every country in the world and teaching the world leaders righteousness and what's right and wrong and what God wants them to do. And he visited every country and every leader in the world for years. 25 years of his life, he flew from country to country to country to country to country to country to country, teaching their leaders. And then he started a program called the Voice of Youth. And the United Nations loved the Voice of Youth program so well, they had him come speak. And I got to tell the story of a mother at The Hague. But the Voice of Youth, they liked it so well, they stole the name. And they created a foundation. The United Nations created a foundation called the Voice of Youths. And they tried to duplicate what William Moffett V created. So, if it's good enough for the world leaders, and the trust was good enough for the Moffat family, then that's how my God trust came into existence. And I wrote it, copied it, did what he did, and to honor him, I actually recorded my God trust in the public in a county in Montana called Raffle County, Montana, where William Moffat was living at the time. He's in Florida now. Difference in temperature, probably. And he's about to move to Texas because of what's coming. And he's in his late 70s now. But he put the whole county of Raffle, Montana, under a God trust by holding a town hall meeting, inviting the whole town, and a whole bunch of people showed up, and he talked about it. And they said, we ought to do that. And so he wrote a God trust for Raffle County to operate under and put the whole county under it. Oh, God. You know, it's one of those like Italian words. Ravolli, I think. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. Raffle County. This is a great document that's in my book. It's called The Achilles Heel is You. The Achilles heel is you. It talks about what the word you means in the law. The person to whom one is speaking or writing, personal pronoun in the second person. In the second person. You is a nominative and objective form. Yours is the possessive. And yourself and yourselves are the reflexive and intensive. Your is the possessive, pronominal, adjective. Any person equivalent in sense to indefinite one, you can never be sure. That's the definition. Did you all understand that? No, you got to read it about 16 times. Figure that one out. You is stressed. You is stressed in the law. It is the second person personal pronoun in modern English. Ye was the original nominative form. The objective form is you. And the possessive is your or yours. Though you is properly a plural, it is in all ordinary discourse used also in addressing one single person in the law, yet properly always with a plural verb. Those are 3 different dictionaries that we got the definitions out of. Remember, they're just after you, your vessel, you, your ship. They're only there to charge you, to tax you. They're never there for the man or the woman. These are important things to know and understand. You know, most of this stuff you're going to be able to find on our Telegram channels. Not all, but most. Most of this stuff you're going to be able to buy in book form. The reason we have to go that route is because I can't be everywhere anymore. And as much as I love you all, we need more people doing what I'm doing because we have more people involved. We get anywhere from probably 8 to 25 calls a week wanting a seminar. And at least 6 of those are from other countries. wanting us to come put a seminar on. Yeah. I just got one from Belarus. I got one last week from Kazakhstan. Got one from the country of Georgia. Want us to come teach. The entire world under the United Nations is operated pretty much exactly the same way. And it doesn't matter what country you are, God gave you the right of your place on this earth. And believe me, when he did that, there was no borders. You have the right to choose your place of inheritance, your place of inhabitants. You have the right of self-determination. If you want to live in the Philippines, go live in the Philippines. You want to live in Costa Rica, go live in Costa Rica. You live wherever you want. Some places are safer than others. Nobody can guarantee your safety but you. Cops sure can't. What do you think their response time right now would be if somebody walked in the door with a gun? 20, 30 minutes. Well, I got a phone call yesterday from a guy in Wisconsin, a neighboring state, who said they called the police on people breaking into their home armed. They managed to sneak out an upstairs window onto the roof and hid on top of their roof. But armed robbers kicked their door in the day before yesterday, came into their home and robbed them, and had they found them, may have done worse. And they're out there on the roof dialing 911. I think he told me it was like 7:40 p.m. They had just had dinner. They just retired to their room. This is a family that goes to bed fairly early and gets up early. And they called 911, called emergency, said they had a home break-in. And the people are here now. Do you know when the police showed up? 9 o'clock the next morning. That's the best response time I've ever seen. Would they walk? The Supreme Court has already ruled the police have no duty to protect you. No duty to protect you. Who's going to protect you if you don't? When I was doing private intelligence work, I was told that a murder happens in that industry in 1/3 of a second to 3 seconds. That's, if you're an intelligence agent and somebody's out to get you, the murder will happen in 1/3 of a second to 3 seconds. Do you know how quickly that is? See, in our military is trained different. And in our military, even the best of the best trained soldiers have all the advantages in the world. They have millions of dollars of training. They have the best equipment on the face of the planet, the best weapons. They've got comms. They got their buddies. They go in groups. They got air support. They got everything they want. They got a sniper on their tower or watching their backside. They've got everything. They got bulletproof vests. And they've got skills that are better than any army in the world. Our boys have that when they're well trained in any of our special groups. But as an intelligence agent, you go into a country dressed like the average, try and blend in, try and look like the average. You a lot of times fly in on a commercial aircraft using your passport or one they gave you that was fake and you got a different name maybe. But you fly in there with nothing. No gun, no bulletproof vest, no knife. You just went through TSA security, and you drop into a strange place where you're going to gather intelligence. If you're smart, you buy a steak knife at a local grocery store and you stick it in your belt. That's the first thing you do, is go to the grocery store, you get food and water and snacks, and you get a steak knife. That in your hands are your weapon. If you're smart, you'll have a pretty good belt, and you'll have usually some kind of a cloth that you can take off quickly, and they make good little nooses. But you got to be better trained in that industry than some of our special forces are trained. I want you to understand that for a reason, because things are coming where you're going to have to protect yourself and your family, especially if you're in big cities. One of the biggest intelligence reports that scared the hell out of me came, 6 or 8 months ago. What did I keep doing with all the pens? Well, I know that one. I was going to show you something with that one in a minute, but I'll put it back. An intelligence report had something like this, and they used Dallas-Fort Worth as the center hub and the way the highways go around it. And they said, we cut off the diesel fuel, we cut off the trucks. The store shelves empty within a few days. Now, didn't we experience this right at the start of COVID? And people were selling water and toilet paper out of their garages because they ran to Costco and bought it all, and then nobody else could buy any. And if you didn't have toilet paper in your house and Costco didn't have any, well, then you had a little bit of an issue. Okay? And wet wipes don't work as well. All right? So, in 7 days, not only does every shelf empty of all the grocery stores in your town of Dallas-Fort Worth, 10 million people inside that beltway. Imagine, I want you to imagine this picture. 10 million. 7 days, all the store shelves are gone, empty. All the food in people's cabinets are empty. And they're looking for, people become animals. And they're looking for those few in there that have food storage. They're looking for them. They're watching for them. And in 7 days, everything gets consumed. And then they spread out 20-mile radius. And they consume everything in a 20-mile radius in 7 more days. The next 20 miles only takes 5 days. And the next 20 miles only takes 5 days. That's 60 miles outside of the Beltway around Dallas-Fort Worth. In how long? Less than a month. All they got to do is stop the delivery of diesel fuel, cut it off, and the trucks stop. What if they cut off the gas too? Everything stops. All your transportation, the minute your tank of gas is empty, it's over with. You abandon your car. This is going to happen. It's going to happen soon. Now, I want you to know there have been things in place that have stopped it from happening already. And the time is getting pushed out there. And the more successful the righteous are, the better things will happen. Except that this is why things aren't moving as fast as we all want them to. But we are pushing it back. Except, I'm going to tell you right now that I don't believe any of this is going to happen. It's going to start to happen, and then it's going to quit. There's always one. I give him a hard time. I love my people. I think it'll quit. And I'll tell you why it'll quit is because I've studied religion for 50 years and I've studied the Bible and I've got to do some things in that arena that most people haven't done. A lot of the things that the little missions I went on were of a religious nature, okay? And there's understandings that I have, knowledge that I have of things that I can't even talk about, some of them. But the real Bible has 777 books in it, not 66. There's a reason they only gave you 66 books. So we won't know everything. But the reason it's not going to happen is because of Isaiah 59. And I know Bonnie read some of it. That brought me to tears because I didn't tell her to. She cues in on me somehow. It is the weirdest thing ever sometimes, but she cues in on me. And here she is quoting it and reading it out of the Bible to you guys from a solitary confinement cell in prison. And she told you verses 14 from 19. I'm going to tell you to read it all, that whole chapter. And watch what happens and watch how God steps in and watch why he steps in. And he steps in because there is no judges that are administering justice. There's no one. They're all corrupt. They're not administering justice to the people. And there's no man, it says, and no intercessor who steps in between. No man who stands up and steps in between to save the people. So God gets pissed off. And I don't think it's wise to piss off God, but evil's doing it. Our bar association's doing it. And I know he's doing it right now, and he's doing it very soon. Over the next several months, it's all going to collapse. I've been watching it collapse for about the last 12 months. And then Judge Clarence Thomas said something, and, I'm starting to see it from law students. I'm starting to see it in various court cases around how they're losing because the people are standing. And they're losing more and more and more. But the ones they're winning, they're taking bigger and bigger advantages of. So some of our people, our Americans, our brothers and sisters are getting harmed more than they ever got harmed before. But it's because of their lack of knowledge they'll be destroyed, see. But the ones that have the knowledge are winning bigger than they've ever won before. They're winning easier and faster, and they're bringing judges in our courts down as they're doing it. They're establishing precedents that they're losing, and it's a little here, a little there, all over the United States. And I'm watching all that unfold before me, and at the same time I'm watching the evil attack my people more than I've ever seen them attack in 3 decades. Okay? And God steps in and he puts on his shield and his cloak and his helmet and his sword, and he stands at the west, facing the east and the rising sun, and destroys the enemies in a wave. He destroys the enemies in a wave. Yeah. And that's coming about November. I want you to know that. Believe me or don't believe me, that's okay with me. I've never asked anyone to believe me. Not in 30 years. I've never said, you need to believe me. Never said that. Exactly right. He said, is that why our population is going to drop to 100 million? I said, exactly right. Most of the people live in the big cities, and they live on the coastlines. And the coastlines and the big cities will be destroyed. The Illuminati thinks Denver won't. I got news for them. Yellowstone's going to take that out from 500 miles away. The Rocky Mountains were created because the plates shifted. The Pacific coast line used to be out farther at one time, and it went under the Pacific plate. So our continent went under the Pacific plate. That's how it's going. And as it goes under, the mountains drop, the elevations drop, and the tallest mountains of California will be islands in the sea. And every city, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, all the way down will be gone. So will Reno, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and then the mountains of eastern Arizona and Utah and Colorado will be coastline. But as that plate breaks in half by being forced under like it did before, it formed the Rocky Mountains. It also crunched up and it formed the Cascades and the Coast Range Mountains like an accordion. It doesn't go under another continental shelf easily. It's like a car getting in a car wreck. It just starts folding up. And it drops it into the sea. And of course, a very large mountain on fire. Imagine something bigger than the biggest mountain you've seen in the United States. That is solid iron, lands in the Atlantic Ocean, hitting so hard that it pulls the plates of the earth apart, pushes them to the west, pushes the nation to the west, our nation. The whole world is affected by the tidal waves. Tidal waves are like dropping a rock in a pond. They go clear to the other side. They travel. And they travel fast. And so the whole world gets affected. The waves go to the north because it's coming from the south, hitting the Atlantic, and pushes the biggest wave up to the north, which goes into a lot into the Hudson Bay and up past Greenland and Iceland and so on. And that causes the ice to melt. When you pour water on ice, what happens? It melts. Especially warmer water, like from Florida. It melts. So now, that comes through the Hudson Bay, and it comes through the Great Lakes, and it washes down the Mississippi Channel and washes everything out. And that's why the Army Corps of Engineers have been building these dikes for years and raising their elevations, trying to stop the erosion. They're not concerned with the water. They know that's coming. They're concerned with the dirt disappearing and our farmland. And all the big cities of the East Coast disappear as well. And you don't think when it comes down and it takes out Minneapolis, St. Paul. Yes, it's a worldwide event. Okay, that's the area that's left in the mid part of the United States. It will be flooded up to 750 feet right now. We don't know, they don't know for sure, but that's what they're estimating, okay? They don't know how much the plate's gonna rock and move, okay? God's in charge, but they are every intelligence agency and agency of government on the planet are all know this is coming. They all do. In the hill country in Texas, well, I drove by the lake and I'm staying right on it, pretty much. And I am not going to be here in November. Everything's what? Yeah. Everything's sand. Sand washes easily. What's that? God doesn't allow it to happen. He's going to make it happen because of the wicked. Can you stop the wicked fast enough? That's been our goal for the last 4 or 5 decades. Can we, the righteous, stop the wicked and make them repent of their sins so that God does not have to step in fast enough? The answer to that question is clear. No. We've never been able to. We can slow it down. We can save as many people as we possibly can. But we're not going to be able to stop it. And the real problem comes, how do we survive the aftermath? How prepared are you? Do you have, what's that? I've been preparing for 3-4 decades. Not right at the moment, but it's going to be soon. See, AOR's status, I could care less about it, except they care about it. And it's what helps us defend ourselves right now. It is our weapon. But our weapons are going to change. They're going to change to food storage, how well we can grow a garden, how well we can keep chickens and have eggs. Okay? Yeah, well, I've got 30 chickens right now. Okay? Producing way more eggs than I can eat, and I'm giving them to the post office ladies. So, and people in our office, and people that come to the RT meetings get eggs. All right? But it's how well prepared you are. What if some of this starts to happen? You're going to have 10 million people sitting right here going after a couple million right here, going after 500,000 right here. Because you're getting in the rural areas, the ranches are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, less people per square mile. There's not even that many down here. And these guys need to eat. And pretty soon you start looking like 165 pounds of protein. I don't think I'm kidding. They've been preparing people for that for a while, feeding them human flesh. So you're used to it. Look at everything that adds up. Most people only think about a few small number of things. You think about thousands of things and put it together, and you'll see the picture as clearly as I do. For me, it's like opening a book. I see what's coming.
So I'm trying to be practical. I mean, our town is at 627 feet above sea level. So all the preparation we're doing.
Well, understand, that's your Florida, Louisiana, East Coast. It's going to be like a 75-story building wave, and people are going to be standing there just like in the movie 2012. I thought we had more time. As it's washing cars and buses and taxi cabs off the streets of New York City and Washington, D.C. into you.
So that doesn't mean
Michigan is in what we call the purple. Blue is going to be underwater. The purple zones will be washed out. But when the water recedes, you got left what you got left. How many times has you guys had floods in Missouri and along the Mississippi River? What happens to those farmlands and stuff? How hard is it to rebuild that?
I guess I just know I'm the bride. We're the bride. So I have to count on.
That's right. Yep. You better kick your husband in the ass and get him moving. See, that's what women are good at anyway, isn't it? They're the ones that straighten us out. Even the king bows to the queen, right? We know where our meals come from, who washes our laundry and takes care of us. She's my queen. Guys, I'm not trying to scare people with this. I want you to be ready, prepared. I didn't make this stuff up, but I've read enough to know it's real. And it's more than real. They're actually going to call the rock in the Atlantic Atlantis when it hits. They've already named it after the waters recede. It's a solid chunk of ore that hits just off our east coast in the Atlantic Ocean. And it's big, huge. Out there somewhere. They've been tracking it for years. It's on NASA's website. Little teeny tiny ones. I'll tell you how powerful they are when they're made out of solid iron traveling at thousands of miles an hour. It's like a solid iron bullet coming out of a gun that's big, aiming at a target called Earth. And one of them, actually they had 4 last September, and one of them missed Earth by a long ways. They all missed Earth by a long ways, but one of them missed it close enough that it grabbed our field, our magnetic field, because throw a big chunk of iron past a magnet and watch that magnet. It's like a motor. It just starts spinning. And our Earth sped up by 0.0036 of a second. 0.036 of a second. That's not much. It missed us by like 1,100 miles above our atmosphere. And it was 120 feet across. That's a little tiny pebble compared to what's coming. What's coming is larger than the largest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. That much solid iron in a big round ball, that's oblong actually, is traveling through space at thousands of miles an hour, and it's going to strike the Atlantic. And they've already named it, and they've already named the island it creates afterwards.
So you're saying it's the size of what created the Gulf of Mexico?
Look, you know how accurate our mathematicians are? Elon Musk shoots up 367 rockets that come back down and land on a 25-foot by 25-foot piece of concrete. And only one of them missed by a foot and tipped over. It fell off the edge of the pad, boom, exploded. He sent that rocket into space and accounted for wind drift, the spin and rotation of the earth into space, traveled around the earth, came back down and landed on a 25-foot by 25-foot piece of concrete. NASA, they got to drop it in the ocean somewhere, right? And everybody says, NASA's never put a rocket into space. Yes, they have. Did they ever land on the moon? No, I don't believe so. But Russia did. Go ahead. What's that? Oh, God, I don't want to get into that. I know what it means. I'm not going to get into that stuff. I'm not going to get into flat earth stuff either. Okay? It ain't flat. All right. Rob, where are we at? $5:00? Got one more hour? All right. You know, one of my goals is to make sure all your questions are answered. All of them. You know what I want more than anything in the world? I want full and honest disclosure. That's all I've ever wanted. I will try and answer any question that you have. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you I can't answer it. Or I don't know. What's the best suggestion I have for somebody in the purple? Is have, and you won't have much time to get there, but have a bug out spot in the mountains somewhere that you can. That's not in Michigan. You're exactly correct. Michigan's too flat. Michigan's going to have a problem. Yeah, raise your hands and we'll put a microphone to you.
Hello. Okay, quick. I have just a short list. They're yes and no questions. Are the cabal state nationals typically?
No.
Why not?
They're hiding behind foundations. Because most of the upper level cabal, the 1%, they consider themselves above country. Okay?
Okay.
We're the ones that got to deal with the courts. They never get dragged into the courts. They own the courts. The people that own the courts don't get in the front door or dragged in the front door. So no, they don't care. And I wouldn't care either. I would not care either if we didn't have a corrupt Department of Justice and all of its court systems and the bar and the bankers. See, most of them are the bankers that control the bar. The bar is the soldiers of the bankers who control all the courts to create securities on the chattel. And because we're all chattel, they're attacking us. And then we have to have a way out. That's what status standard jurisdiction is. I could give a crap about that if we were not involved in that corruption, not being taken advantage of it. See, I don't care about the White House Office Inc. either, or who runs for president in 2024. I really don't. This whole shit and caboodle's going to come burning down before then. Watch it. Okay, who's got the mic?
Are HOAs an issue with land patents? Is it a wall that's difficult to
No.
scale?
I got a little girl in Colorado that's in a big HOA, very nice homes, and put her property in land patent. She's fine, except for now all the neighbors are at war with her. That's the problem with an HOA. You don't have to worry about the government after you put it in land patent. You got to worry about your dang neighbors.
Why?
Because they all hate you to do something different. They all want to be Smiths and Jones.
They already hate me. We're all good on that. Yeah.
HOAs are awful.
If everything is going to collapse, why move forward with becoming a state national?
What do you think stops the death and destruction or limits
you said
it?
That, yeah. Okay, awesome.
Limits it. It's us standing up, us learning who we are, who they are. This whole thing is to protect you and your family temporarily until the problem rights itself, and God will right it. But if you're one of the people that are going to go, well, I'll just wait for that to happen, and you stay on your couch, well then, who are you harming? All the rest of us. We need to rise up and stick together. And if you're not sending in your AOR,
you better get it done.
see, it's burying the State Department in paperwork that shows our intent of the freedoms and liberties that we want. And we're telling them by that, they've committed atrocities that we can't morally, ethically, and righteously live with. If this group was a representative of the United States, and I'm going to say it fairly well is, except some are more liberal out there than in here, but if it was a fairly close representative of the United States, and some of you were committing murder and genocide and forcing people to take shots and stopping cancer cures and developing biological weapons and this, that, and the other thing, and you were doing all these atrocities, and this was the group I wanted to be a part of, could I morally, ethically, and righteously be a member of this group? No.
Not just no, but hell no.
That's right. Hell no. And that's what the United States has been doing. It's been going to war for oil and money and politics. And it's been doing that since 1945. Every war we've fought since 1945 has not been a war declared by our representatives in Congress. It's been declared as a United Nations authorized conflict over war over money, oil, politics. Give the mic to somebody.
David, you mentioned that we should make the U.S. Code our friend.
For now.
And so, as I look at the U.S. Code, I see a term in there that says some of the articles are positive law. What are positive law articles of the U.S. Code?
Positive law are laws that conform to the boundaries of our Constitution, our founding documents, in the Bible. Non-positive law is SMU. Shit made up and it's null and void on its face, like all of Title 26. It says right in Title 26, or it used to in most of the books, versions, it says no part of this title, no part of this title, not its headings or its footnotes or its definitions or its body shall be construed as law. You know what Title 26 is? The IRS code, codified in the United States Code. Why are you funding the cabal? President Trump said, stop funding the cabal. You know what he told you when he said those words? Stop paying your income tax. Now, I don't like to say that on camera because that gets out there and they don't like me very much. Puts my life in danger. You know what? I don't give a shit. I've been putting my life in danger for a long time. Hell, the county just gave me my home address, told them where I live.
My question is, my brother is mentally handicapped, and our parents are deceased, and so I am his guardian. Would I be able to get him to be a state national, or is it worth it, or how does that work?
He's infirmed. As infirmed, you need to put him under trust of you as his beneficiary. And you are the fiduciary. That gives you more power than anything else over him. Okay? Go ahead. Who's next?
As soon as I learn how to use this thing. First question is about silver. In your AOR, you mentioned $100 in silver. Is that an amount? What does that pertain to? I'm asking for Jennifer at ASN University.
I mentioned what?
$100 in silver in your AOR.
What was the reference?
It's just a reference.
What was the reference?
Oh, it was with regard to securing your vessel, I think.
Okay. Look, whatever you want to say, that is more than $1 silver dollar. And right now, $1 silver dollar is worth what, $22 or something? 23? Huh? It's gone up recently. So, got to watch it. It varies every day. But $1 silver dollar forms a contract. $1 silver dollar is a true dollar with 2 lines. It's a keystroke for the bank. The difference between positive money and debit money is a keystroke. Whether the dollar sign has 1 line or 2 lines. You understand that?
There's an opinion out there that there's a certain amount of post-1986 Silver Eagles. There's an amount that replaces land at probate. Can you speak to that?
Yes, that is usually $100 or more in silver. When I walk into a courtroom, I take 40 pieces of silver, 2 rolls, and I go on the table. I'm telling you what they just did to Bonnie. I'll tell you. The judge wrote a letter, and Bonnie read it to me at lunchtime. The letter declared her indigent and must have an attorney. The judge has no right to rule on that without a hearing. We own several $1 million worth of property free and clear. I got a lot of silver and gold. I've got a lot of things of value. I've got plenty of those debt notes. I've got a pretty hefty little bank account, and I have access to my trust that's worth $100 million or more. And Bonnie has her full faith and credit bond worth $100 million or more. And he's trying to declare her indigent and rule from the bench. Do you know how easy that is for me to destroy him on that? But see, he has to have an attorney on the record to put Bonnie in prison, and they're trying to put her in prison for 4 years and 4 months. What? Yeah. For something that happened 15 years ago, or 2015, not 15 years ago, I didn't mean to say that. 2015, that was so minor and so pathetic, and she was fixing the issue herself, that she was railroaded into a sentence and signed a plea deal because they had an attorney for her, and she already paid her price. And they're bringing it up again, and they're doing it nefariously, and they're taking it from a discharge to a dismissed to creating a warrant after the fact, which is a copious warrant, which is no warrant at all. And I can go on and on and on about all the laws they're breaking right now and the felonies that they're committing. And she's been in solitary confinement 19 days. And 15 is considered torture under Texas law, and they're not allowed to torture anyone. And she hasn't even been tried yet. And they're saying for this crime, she doesn't have to have a trial of a jury because she has no rights, because they're revoking her probation. So technically, she's still a prisoner from 2015. And a prisoner has no rights. And that is one of the worst crimes they could charge her for. Murder would be easier to defend. Understand, very few attorneys will even take one of those cases. It is literally the worst charge in Texas because it removes her competency, her rights, makes her indigent, a ward of the state. And she has to fight that before she can even fight the charge. That's why I'm here. I'm going to destroy them. I offered them a peace treaty. I offered them a full faith and credit, $100 million incontestable guaranteed bond of the full faith and credit of the United States of America and a peace treaty. That's what I offered them. And they're proceeding to try and punish her. They could have walked away with half of that bond, and she could have walked away with half that bond. And the beneficiary gets paid first, by the way. And it dismisses all cases, all charges, everything from the beginning as if it never were. And then you have a treaty where they can't attack you again. See, they can't attack me again. Now, the cop on the side of the road doesn't know that. That's why he put me in jail. But once they found out who I was, what happened? They wiped it off the face of the planet. And I could have everything of Bonnie's wiped off the face of the planet as her assignee and promisor, and having a fiduciary responsibility to my wife and having an equity interest in our relationship and our properties that we own, held under trust by the United States government. I can stand there in a courtroom under federal law and argue for her. And those little pissant counties, he realized that right off the bat, and he let me and Bobby talk, because I handed the bond to Bobby. I was holding it up, and he held it up, and now by putting it in his keep, I just made him co-trustee. so that we could both fight together. Two men in a foxhole, fighting for what's right, to demand my property be returned. And she is my property. They make a lot of money on. She asked, why are they doing that to her, and what is the benefit to them? They're attacking her trust. Okay, they're creating bonds on the front side and attacking her trust on the back side. See, she double authenticated her birth certificate years ago. She never told me that. What's that? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They want me to stop talking. And if they would have accepted that treaty, we would have settled. I wouldn't be able to tell you guys anything or teach it ever again. I would have had to quit. So just before I came here, that judge did me a favor by writing the email that he wrote and putting it on her record. And that untied my mouth. Yes, he did. He did all of us a favor. He untied my mouth. This is why I'm not allowed to talk about the details of my own trust with you. Because I had to do that in 91, and it's forever. But see, they screwed up. And they decided they'd rather have war. And see, I looked them in the eye. And I said, I'm offering you peace. That's all I want. I'm offering you peace. I'm offering you a treaty. I'm willing to do it in honor and equity and come in and settle the trust matter before the court today, Your Honor. And I'm presenting a $100 million bond. You know how bad they want that? They were salivating. They want the whole thing. They want me to just drop it off at the county clerk's office and give it to them. They don't get it until they sign the treaty. Don't ever give them your bond. Hold that thing tight. Otherwise, it's like walking down the street in New York City with a whole bunch of $100 bills hanging out of every pocket in your waistline and walking down the street. Don't expect to be pushed into an alley and get robbed. That's exactly what having that bond is like without executing it. Bonnie had it in her possession in one of her desk drawers, never really told me, and she had never executed it. And they've been coming after her and coming after her and coming after her since 2013 when she sued him for the wrongful death of her dad. At that point, they thought they're at war with her. So she had to learn and study the law as fast as she could. She read as many law books as she could. She studied 6 days a week for 16 hours a day. And she knows the law better than just about anybody because she's got one of those great minds that remembers stuff. She's sitting in her darn jail cell 19 days in, quoting code to me at lunchtime. I got to look that shit up. I remember reading it. I know what it says. I know the concept of it. I know where to find it. But am I going to quote where to find it and what page number off the top of my head? No. I haven't had that ability since 2013. Can't do it. She's got the mind for it still. I don't.
Hi, David. My question is, do you have to claim your minor estate before you could buy a house as the creditor instead of like the debtor? Like as you're talking about like going to the trunk versus the branch?
Again, everybody, this is one of those questions that it really doesn't matter what the subject is or what he actually said. The real thing is, the answer is no, but you can't defend it. Whether you're a citizen or whether you're a national doesn't mean you can't do it. The law is there and it's in place, but you'll never defend it as a citizen because a slave can't own property. Always know that. Slaves work for the master. The master owns the property. I read it to you right out of the Texas Code, and it applies in every state says it. The U.S. government says it in their code. They're all the same. Every United Nations nation in the world says it. But when it comes to property, the state owns it. Because you're a citizen, whether you're a British citizen or a U.S. citizen, you're a citizen. Listen, the first place in history, well, I set out on a quest one time, about 3 decades ago, to find out where in our U.S. history, what document could I possibly find that was the oldest where the word citizen came in. And the oldest one I could find was a proclamation from the King of England. We had just kicked their butts in the Revolutionary War. And we were farmers and loggers and clearing fields and building homes and log cabins and spreading west. And we had just kicked their butts. And the king, being a smart king, knew that it was going to cost a lot of money to bring his loser soldiers home. Had to ship them 100 at a time back over the Atlantic. You know how many trips that is? How much that costs? How much you got to pay captains and build ships and... Okay? He knew that was going to take a lot of money out of the king's coffers. So being the smart king, he thought up a way to win the war even after he lost the war. And here's what he said. He put out a proclamation that said, those British soldiers who would like to remain on the shores of America shall remain as British citizens. Not free men. He distinguished between the free men. As British citizens to provide the free men and women of America with essential governmental services. And he left the British soldiers stay here as British citizens, and they became our governors, led our parishes, our townships, our presidents. George Washington was a British soldier, and he became our general and our president and our commander-in-chief. And when they created Washington, D.C., they put it under the pillar of the crown. Go to the state of Illinois' Attorney General's website under the History tab, the land of Lincoln. And it says, under the History tab, that this office, the office of the Attorney General of the state of Illinois, was put into place to protect and uphold the interests of the crown. I can remember a few decades ago when I first learned all this and I started talking about this, that we could do that on every state's website. And the more I got it out there, the more states were taking it off their language, off their website. And a lot of states just started removing it. Delete. But Illinois is so damn cocky, they've left it up for 30 years. Okay? The land of Lincoln.
It's in the book.
Yeah.
There's a picture of it in the book.
Picture of it in the book.
Is it my turn? I have tried very hard to do the banking process against the civil servants. When I'm getting the summary judgment, I create that myself, right? I write my remedy. Do I go to a court clerk and just present it, or am I seeing a judge to get the summary judgment?
I was going to teach you that tomorrow.
Okay, I will stick on to that.
The 72-30-15-10 judgment day, this is where, I don't know why, It is so hard for me to teach people this. It is very, very difficult. You have a 72-hour right to rescind your presentment. You give them 30 days notice in the form of an affidavit, and usually you send that with a cover letter. Hey, Bob, you know, this particular officer offended me. This is the reason. This is what my bill structure is. Here's your invoice. And you send an invoice with it. Your invoice, your affidavit, and a letter. Usually works fine. 1 page, keep it simple. So you got 3 pages total. Okay? Send it again, 15 days. Send it again, 10 days. On Judgment Day, you send them a notice of judgment. Now you're changing where you have to send them, put them on notice that they're having a judgment. You send them a notice of judgment. 10 days from that date, you can do a summary judgment. And you can go into a court, and it's supposed to be an administrative procedure where you just walk up to the court clerk and with an affidavit, and your affidavit says this person owes me this much money. And I usually, you know, make friends with one of the court clerks. And I walk up and I say, hey, Mary, I got another customer who just isn't paying their bills. I sent them a notice on this such and such a date, and I did it by registered mail, and then I sent them a notice on this date, and I did it by registered mail, and I've got it all right here in an affidavit, and then I sent them this notice, then I sent them a notice of judgment. Here, I have a summary judgment here. I just need to, under your Administrative Procedures Act, to go ahead and sign this so I can begin an additional collective practice. In other words, once she signs that, I can walk over to the sheriff and say, here, go collect this debt for me. And he's supposed to do it. The problem lies there. She knows she can do it, but she won't because the judges she's scared to death of, and the county attorney she's even more scared of, or the district attorney. And all the ladies and gentlemen that work in our counties are scared of those 2 people. 3 really. The top judge in the county, the top district attorney in the county, and the top county and the county attorney. And those 3 who go to the Mason Hall every Friday are running the damn county. And they're breaking all the laws and all the rules and even limiting them in their job. They're limiting the land recorder's office in their job. They're limiting the court clerks in their job. There's your 3 problems. 3,144 counties. What is that? 9,300, and I'm just going to round this down. 9,300 people. And the reason I round down is because some of the counties are already unincorporated. Nevada just unincorporated a couple of counties. We're starting to win. We got a couple of counties in Texas now that's unincorporated. They come out of Babylon. We've got a county in upper state New York. We've got a county in Oregon. Usually where I've taught the most people is where the counties are coming down. There's 2 in Missouri now. 2 counties in Missouri, way down in the southwest corner of Missouri, that are now constitutional counties. And they've unincorporated. I heard there was one around here somewhere. Does anybody know which county? It doesn't matter. Your governor's an idiot. Look, let's just say there's 335 million people in America, and we only need to remove 9,300. Do you think we could do it? They're outnumbered and they're outgunned. What are we waiting on? You got the head judge in the county, the head DA, and the head, who? County attorney. Thank you. I'm trying to see if you remember. Okay, it wasn't that long ago. Those three people. You know what happens if two men witness a judge commit capital felony treason in the courtroom? They can arrest him, take him to the nearest Biddy's intersection, and hang him by the neck until dead at high noon. And that law has been on the federal books for more than 100 years. And it still is. But do you think the sheriff's department and the city police are going to allow those two men to drag that judge to the nearest busy intersection and hang him at high noon? No. They got guns, SWAT teams, armored vehicles. The city of Alvarado has like 7,500 people population or something silly like that, under 10, and they just got delivery of an MRAP. Do you know what an MRAP is? It's a great big armored SWAT vehicle. They can just drive through that wall. Do you want to tell me what the hell for? How much those cost? And what is the purpose? That they got a fully armored MRAP of a police force with not very many officers in a small little town in Texas? Bend, Oregon got one 4 years ago. That's a town of 100,000. The biggest town in my county is Cleburne, 35,000 people, and that's the county seat. All the rest of the towns are less than 10,000 or less in our entire county. And Alvarado got an MRAP? What for? Probably so my bullets won't penetrate it. I'm tired. No man will stand as an intercessor for another. That's what God says. And that's why he gets so mad at us. Do you want God mad at you? Read Isaiah 59. Go ahead, honey.
Hypothetically, if I have double authenticated my birth certificate and I'm a bit of a traffic ticket scofflaw, how do I protect myself from getting jailed like Bonnie?
Go execute it.
I guess I don't know what that means then. As many
That
classes
means you're
as I
going to have
do.
to get ready to where you can walk in a federal circuit court in front of a federal probate judge in equity and exercise, show him you taking dominion over everything. I show you that part in my classes.
Yeah, I'm there.
The flag at peace, the silver, your Bible. What's next? Your trust, contracts, all your contracts, right? Your titles, your superior titles, and standing firmly on your superior rights, developing the standing, by showing them how competent you are, and then you move into equity. And you make the judge your partner.
That's
and
claiming
you
the estate?
execute your trust.
Okay, thank
your
you
language
very much.
changes. Your language changes when you're explaining all this. I'm at peace. I know what real money is. I've got all my ducks in a row. I'm a good member of society. Then all of a sudden, as the assignee of the trust, Your Honor, under the full faith and credit of the United States government, I appoint you as assignee and trustee along with myself. And I moved this court to chamber, in camera, in private, so that we, Your Honor, can execute the trust. And then your whole language changes. Who's next?
That's me. So for those of us who hold a license through the state, I'm a nurse, and I understand what you're saying about keeping them private, and the public. So in asserting my standing as a state national, can I keep the state licensing? Is there any qualification to that?
I actually love this question. What is your license?
I'm a hospice nurse.
You're a what?
A hospice nurse.
Okay.
People get that face. It's not that bad.
Look, the problem is if you're in a very regulated industry, it's very difficult for you to continue to earn a living unlicensed. There are industries like that. We found a way with contractors how to work around it. With building contractors, a workaround. You have to keep things very separately, okay? And since I know more about the building contracting than I do your profession, I'm going to use that as an example, but it applies in most professions. The problem is if you've got additional licenses other than just a state license, a lot of people have a business license, and then they got a contractor's license, and then they got a license with other specialty things or whatever. And some people have quite a few licenses. The general public, the population through TV and radio programs, these governments spent collectively millions and millions and millions of dollars from about 1950 all the way up through probably about end of the 80s, advertising, don't use an unlicensed contractor. You remember all those? Man, they spend a lot of money on that. Those ads aren't cheap. Don't you use a licensed contractor, you might get ripped off. Let me tell you something, most of the unlicensed ones are more honest than the licensed ones. You still get ripped off by licensed ones. There is no difference in that. Your odds of getting ripped off is be careful with either one. Who you hire, know who you hire, what is their reputation, how good a work do they do, get references, do your own research, and then it doesn't matter if they're licensed or unlicensed at all. But they made the consumer believe that you can't hire an unlicensed contractor. So all the contractors who were unlicensed, some people, like my dad, he started a construction company in 1938, and then he took the World War II off when he was on the USS Texas. And then he went back into contracting, and he hired all of my mom's brothers. My mom was the second to the oldest of 17 kids. There were 2 girls. 15 brothers. My dad hired them, and that's how he met my mom when he took them and dropped them off at home. And all those years he was a contractor, unlicensed, because there wasn't such a thing. And in fact, he was unlicensed until in the 60s. And he built beautiful homes. Lots of them all over California back then. In 1969, he moved to Oregon, and he was still building homes. When I was a teenager, he was still building homes. He kind of semi-retired, traveled the country with a motorhome, and he had his managers building homes. And then in 1982, I inherited his construction company. And I said, Dad, I'm in Panama. How can I run it? He said, don't you even worry about it. We got good people. They'll just run it. Run it when you get ready. Years later, I started running it. It just went on without me. Good people who'd been with my dad for years treated it as if it was their business and did a very, very good job running it. So even when I started taking over and running it, those people still worked for me. And they worked, some of them and some of their children, and a few, their grandchildren worked for me. 3 generations of a family, at least 2 families that I know of, worked for my dad or I. And then when the housing market crashed in 2008, one of the reasons I had such a rough time and lost so much money is because I felt for their families and I kept them working when we had no work to do. My Tri-County area went from 2,400 building permits a month to 40. It didn't just slow down. It crashed. Now, I want you to understand this. The Central Oregon Builders Association had 1,900 contractors in the Tri-County area fighting over 40 building permits. We went from building a house a month to nothing. And we were booked up for 3 years. You know what happened to all those contracts? They all canceled. In fact, one house, we were literally pouring the foundation. And the man that we were building the house for drove up and he said, I've got to stop you right there. I just lost my job. And the bank just called the note because of my job loss and no ability to pay. And in my profession, it's going to be hard for me to find work. And they're going to give me 3 months, and I can't take that risk. I want you to stop work today. At the end of the day, I'll pay you for what you've done. And he paid us, wrote us a check at the end of the day for what we had into it. And that job canceled. And that lot, the last time I drove by it, still sat there with just a poured foundation. And that was 2007. Bend was one of the first towns to get hit. Because at the time it was running in all the magazines as the most desirable place to live in the United States. And it went from 25,000 in population in 1995 to 100,000 in 2005. And right now it sits at 102,000. So in 10 years, it multiplied by 4 times. And since 2005 to now, it's only gone up a couple of thousand people. So stagnant, relatively stagnant. But those contractors having that advertising problem, what we learned is we keep their licenses and their corporations to do their business. And then we form a private membership association with the owner, and he doesn't take any checks out of the business to pay his salary anymore. They pay the PMA, and then he takes his money from the PMA to do what he wants to do for his family and others, whoever he wants to help. And that saved him a ton of money. So we took him into the private even though he had a corporation in the public. Okay? Does that answer that question? Who's got the mic?
Right here. Can you explain Capitis Deminutio Maxima to us? Capitis Deminutio Maxima.
What does Capitis mean?
Capital.
Ah, a Capitis warrant is where they grab your body.
Okay.
Without a
Capitis.
warrant.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
There's no
I
real
understand.
warrant.
Mm-hmm.
It's a verbal from a judge. Snatch him up. That's what it is.
Okay. Deminutio. Okay. I don't want to stop you. You're explaining to me.
Yeah. Okay. Maximus is what? The maximum.
Maximum.
Okay. So what was the center word?
Capitis Deminutio.
Dominion. The capital. Dominion. Maximum. What does that mean? When it relates to your body. Your entire body in dominion.
Mm-hmm.
Take it.
Okay. Now,
people think it's related to money. Your body is the money. Your body is the full faith and credit of the United States government. Your body is the bond.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to understand that. It's the maximum capital of your body. We are the chattel property.
Yes. Okay, does it also mean the highest and most comprehensive loss of status when a man was born free and became a slave?
Exactly. You became the vessel, the person, the vessel. You lost all your status at birth. You understand with the birth certificate? That's
Yes.
exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they have to attack the surety. Your birth certificate is a bond. Your body is a surety. It all goes together because you've accepted the person. And what did God tell you? Be the man and not the person. Don't put flattering titles of person upon a man, for if you do, it's a sin and it'll surely take you away.
Okay, so the uppercase, so Capitis Deminutio Maxima is a style of writing. Is that like on your driver's license or your mail, your birth certificate, your social security card, the capital letters, is that artificial being that was created by the courts?
Yeah, I want you to quit thinking about it like this. It's evolved. See, David Robinson writes some very good books. He's a very prolific writer. He educates a lot of people with his books. He doesn't stand in front of classrooms and teach. He sits in his basement and he writes. And he's good at it. He's a good researcher and his books are accurate. And I bet you, because he may have told me once, that if he could go back in time and change anything, what would he change? He wouldn't call it the straw man, he would call it the vessel. Because the federal rules of criminal procedure call you the vessel. It is a ship, a shipping company, holding the office of purser or person upon the vessel. And everything is in transportation and commerce. That's admiralty law. What did the pirates do? They pilfered. They went after the gold. They went after the silver. They went after the jewels, the diamonds, other ships to build their fleet. They pilfered. That's what our government does. They're a bunch of inland pirates sailing their cruise ships around, their cruisers, taxing the poor, looking for booty. That's exactly right. See?
We got 5 more minutes. We got one more question over here. Can we do that?
Let's do it. She
David.
is so
Thank you.
good.
You mentioned, got some feedback there. You mentioned tying your marriage and recording it with a Bible and declaration of marriage, tying that to your legal description and then recording with an affidavit. Can you share a little bit more about how you did that? Tied it to the legal description, meets and bounds?
I could show you mine, maybe. It won't take me more than a second to find it. All of that right there is Bonnie's case. So an affidavit of marital status right here. It's 4 pages. In this 4 pages, it describes Bonnie and it describes me, and sworn under the pains and penalties of perjury, and I'm a man and maintain that any and all property belonging to myself and my wife are considered to be one in the same. We are one. Where'd that buzz come from? Shut that mic off for just a second. Okay, it's a plane, never mind. And as my wife's sole exclusive executor for any and all trust matters which may arise in any form or fashion as her husband and assignee, a private man, and on my sacred private oath and covenant to love, honor, and cherish her, and as her faithful protector, keeping my promise to my wife to perform and execute the faithful bonds of our life together, I give notice of my duty to execute as her signee and promisor. And on page 3, it's got the metes and bounds of my property. Right there. Oops. It's got my signature, witness's signature, my seals. Once you gain access to your trust, you should put a gold seal on it of some kind. That's mine. That's my thumbprint. Land and air. Okay. Notarized, there's the Notaries Commission. Always get one of those from your notary. Include it. Why? Because it's got multiple seals, including the state seal, and whoever piles up the most seals wins. This document has lots of seals on it. There's the notaries, there's the states, there's 2 for me, there's another notary. There's a bad picture. This is my photocopy of the document, but there's a bad picture of the front of the Bible, and there's the page in the Bible that we were married in, with who officiated and the witnesses is all right there, and it's tied to the property now, and it's recorded. And that document got recorded in 2 counties. Hill County, Texas, and Johnson County, Texas. These pages with an affidavit got recorded right after we were married. But one of the things I learned is I had to tie it to the property where we live. That's a land patented property. Okay? That's what's nice about those 9 square feet, those 3 foot by 3 foot pieces. Does that help? Okay, yeah. If you want to come over and read it, I'll let you read it. But 3 by 3. Yeah. One-time price. And there's going to be more benefits coming because you own it in the future. So. Sure you can. All you got to do, under your right of self-determination, is say, this is my land. Doesn't matter where you live. People travel the world their whole life, but somewhere they got to call home. And in 3 feet by 3 square feet, it might not be much, but if you had to, you could be buried vertically there. All right. We done, or who's next? We're done. Boss said we're done. I'll talk to you right anyway. Hey guys, I just got a great question. This lady's a notary. She said the fact that I'm a notary and becoming an ASN, is there something? No, that's great. We need all the notaries we can get. Okay? Good. We need all the notaries we can get. Use of a notary is our bridge to get us from the land over to the ship on the dock into the courtroom. It's our bridge between the private and the public. 3 notaries trumps a judge. 2 notaries is equal to a judge. When we do a common law court, the 12 jury members create the order and they sign it. And 3 notaries seal it. And when they do, now we can take it into federal court under the Unified Foreign Judgment Enforcement Act and get the judgment enforced. All right.